Sorry, went a little quick on that one. One more time. Thank you.
Morning.
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 No, it's not on.
Switch this, huh? Now is this on? Check the board. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2.
There you go.
You want to use this?
No,
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No.
I'm giving away $50. Can you hear me?
I can.
Let me see the fine print.
Do you want to just use this one? We can.
That would be awesome. The problem is this is handheld and not wearable. If it was wearable, it would work.
That one's working.
Well, now it's not.
Okay, this is less than subtle. Now I hear myself. Hi, how are you? Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Dan Rosenbaum. I'm the president and editor-in-chief of Centering Media, a content marketing company based in New York, specializing in hypermobile technologies. And I'm the editor of the Wearable Tech Insider at wearablesinsider.com. We specialize in all things wearable technology. I've been tracking the mobile and online businesses since about 1986, when really sort of before there was an online business. It's one thing to be selling a piece of wearable technology through Best Buy, where someone's going to buy one, they might buy 4 for their family if they're really being sort of extravagant about it. It's a very different thing and a very different reason to have mobile technology in an enterprise. Amazon isn't going to buy 3 things. Amazon is going to buy 5,000 units for its warehouse people. A medical center isn't going to be buying 2 wearable skin patches. They're going to be buying them by the tens of thousands. The needs of an enterprise are very different from the needs of an individual user. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. In the next half hour, we have a really terrific panel of executives who see the wearable space in maybe a different way than most of the market is seeing it. And I'm going to now let them introduce themselves one by one. To my left?
Yep. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Kueh. I'm the VP of Mobile and Carrier Solutions at Neustar. If you've never heard of Neustar, we're a company that made its origins from winning the FCC's number portability database. So every single operator connects to us to figure out the master routing table for your phone numbers. And this is a mandated requirement from FCC. But in the last 5 years, we pivoted to become a data analytics company through organic and inorganic growth. So today, we also provide data verification for financials, for fraud and detection. We're the official address database for the US Post Office and UPS, so that when they figure out where to send packages to you, they verify against our database. And we're growing into new areas such as mobile and connected devices and obviously wearables.
Quinn?
Hi, I'm Quinn Lee with Qualcomm Ventures. So we're the corporate venture arm for Qualcomm. We invest broadly in the wireless mobility ecosystem, including areas such as mobile healthcare and Internet of Things and wearables. We have a global operation investing in 7 different regions around the world, and we've been doing this since 2000. Glad to be here.
Great.
Daniel?
Hi. I'm Daniel Debow. I work at Salesforce.com and SVP in emerging technologies. I came to Salesforce. I'm actually an entrepreneur. I've built and sold 2 companies and sold the last one called Wearable to Salesforce. After that was integrated, I started thinking about what's going to be next, what's the huge thing that's coming around the corner, and I think wearables was the thing that's got my attention the most. And not just me, a lot of folks at Salesforce, including our CEO, very interested in the applicability of how wearables will change the way that we connect to companies, how the way that we sell, service, market to people. So exciting to be on this panel. It's always good to know the state of a space, right? When it's all kind of janky, the microphone doesn't work. There's no lasers here, right? Like it's all, we're early.
We're early. Speaking of early, we have a half hour. We have now 25 minutes on the clock. And let's start with you, Daniel.
Okay.
Salesforce.com, big enterprise company, big software company. I had an email from, I was telling you earlier, an email from your public relations people not minutes ago saying that there's something going on with Salesforce and wearables. Why does Salesforce care about wearable technology?
Sure, it's a great question. Yes, there is something going on. I can't announce it today, but it'll be coming out soon. It's a project that I've been working on, lots of other folks have been working on. So Salesforce, so many of you may not know, but Salesforce, in addition to being the #1 SaaS player or #1 CRM company in the world in sales, service, and marketing now, is a huge platform player, meaning we are the #1 platform for people to build business applications on the web. So anything from Heroku, which is a Salesforce product, to our Fuel platform for marketing, to the Salesforce One platform for building mobile apps. These are something, we have about 1.5 million developers, and we have about 2,500 ISVs, companies that build business software that's based on our platform. Salesforce as a company is very innovative. It's been around for about 15 years. Last 3 years in a row, we've been ranked the most innovative company in the world. But from the very beginning, our CEO has always tried to see where technology is going, right? In the beginning, everyone today accepts the cloud as sort of a business tool. It's normal, but it's important to remember when Salesforce got started, that was not reality. That was something that no one would trust, no one would believe in. And it took an entrepreneurial, evangelical, innovative company to say, no, this is something we can make real, and it has real business applicability. One of the original visions was we saw what Amazon was doing and said, why can't it be as easy in the enterprise? We did the same thing with social. We've built social into all of our products about 4 or 5 years ago. People said it's not going to be real, and now it's a key part of every enterprise product. And just last year, we've been involved in mobile for a while, but we really re-platformed the entire Salesforce platform to be a mobile platform, to build mobile apps, both internally and externally at scale. We think wearables is the next step of the mobile revolution. And in fact, if you look at the adoption rates of wearables and compare it to where smartphones were, wearables are actually growing 5 times faster than smartphone adoption was. And I think that's a general trend of society where new product introductions are growing faster thanks to guys like you who are making the chips cheaper and more commoditized out there, like more easy to use, more sensors. So it's sort of a question, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when do all these wearable technologies, things that we're wearing, whether it's clothes, wristbands, Google Glass, when do they start changing the way we work? And when do they change the way that we connect with our customers? That's what we're in the business of doing, helping our customers connect with their customers. And we're in the business of helping them build apps and selling them apps that they can use. And so it's a pretty natural step to say, we should start helping this ecosystem evolve. We should start helping people figure out the challenging problems, because it is early, right? There's different form factors, different products, different security regimes. And so helping people figure out identity, figuring out UX, figuring out the right patterns, the right use cases is incredibly important. And we think, back to your question, why do we care about it? We care about it because we've got this amazing platform with so much stuff that comes for free to build on, right? That businesses trust already. You've got security, you've got identity, you've got workflows that make sense, and this huge ecosystem of people who are out there every day building mobile apps. The next step is logical. What is wearables going to mean for the business world? And that's why it matters to us. That's why I'm here, and that's why we'll be doing more stuff in the near future.
Quinn?
Sure. So as many of you, Qualcomm is, we're in a kind of heart of the mobile communication industry evolution, right? So we provide many of the chipsets, communication chipset, as well as application processors, powers many of the phones today. probably some of you carry Android phones or iOS devices will probably likely have one of our Qualcomm chips in there. So I think, there's still a lot of opportunities in the mobile world today. I think there's still opportunities in emerging countries where the smartphone penetration is still relatively low, still a lot of growth left there. But then what's the next step, right, beyond mobile? So wearable is obviously one extension of we view as the mobile world. So we had launched a product called a Talk, which is a smartwatch. The idea there is not necessarily we want to become a consumer or watch company. The idea is to showcase some of the technologies we have, like the low power display technology, like the wireless charging technology that we have, to showcase some of these technologies that's our key technology in our view to enable very attractive wearable devices, right? So for Qualcomm's standpoint, we're interested in getting things connected, starting from the smartphones and now moving to Internet of Things and wearable devices. The more things that use wireless technology being connected wirelessly, that we can potentially sell the technology that enables these things being more connected, that's good for Qualcomm and that's good for everybody around the world. And then from the investment standpoint, so we're the venture group which is trying to invest around the wearable ecosystem to help drive demands for Qualcomm's product services. So we invest in companies like Fitbit, for example, which is a leader in the healthcare space. We invested in another chip company that's making an SoC targeted at low power SoC targeted at the wearable space. And then we also have an investment in a battery company. I think the battery life on these devices, cell phones and wearables become very important. You don't want to necessarily charge your device every day. If you can charge it once a week, that would be awesome.
You should talk to chip companies. I understand chip companies are working on lower power usage. So if you know any chip companies, the battery guy should be talking to them.
Absolutely. So we invest in a low power chip company, and they also invest in a battery company with the promise of potentially increase the battery energy density by a 2x, right? So instead of charging your phone every other day, maybe you can last 4 or 5 days. So those are some of the things we're trying to do to invest around the wearable or Internet of Things ecosystem, trying to help drive the ecosystem forward.
So for Neustar having a play in analytics and also from the telecom perspective, we believe that all these devices are interconnected. Whether they're going to be interconnected to your personal network that's just around your body, or most likely these devices will be feeding some kind of cloud platform and they're connected. And that interconnectivity is really where Neustar plays. There's also a saying that says you can't improve anything that you can't measure. So I think the overall usage cases that are being explored around wearables is really around performance optimization, whether it's Fitbit is for your own health, or if it's part of an enterprise, it's part of a workflow, and you're trying to understand how much every single person is spending doing certain tasks so that they can measure it and improve it. So this is where I think is very interesting for Neustar being a data and analytics company, that we're able to track this and, of course, protect it in a privacy secure way that enables the users themselves to either see this data in an aggregate view. So we recently announced in my team a product called Neustar Connections, and this is really essentially a hub. Today it's really around in-home automation where you can connect devices to this aggregate hub, because there's going to be a lot of different vendors playing in this space, using a lot of different protocols that need to connect into this common cloud. So we're the orchestration bus for the in-home and working with a lot of the in-home automation providers, whether it would be the Cox home automation of the world or whatnot. But then once they have that, the idea then is to take this aggregate information and then send it somewhere so that you can then do smart things with it, whether it be for enterprise automation in a Salesforce cloud, or a consumer type thing where you send it either to Google or Apple or whoever you're entrusting this data with. And so we're sort of that hub in the middle. This is the place that Neustar has played in the past for telecom, and we think in the wearable and home automation space, this is where we're also going to play.
Great, thanks. Most people, when they envision work in today's world, today's economy. Think of work as office work. And the idea of wearable technology in office work doesn't strike me as being particularly interesting. You're sitting at a desk, you're doing a meeting, and the prospects for that are sort of limited. But of course, work is much bigger than that. Work goes outside the office. Work is increasingly mobile in a medical setting, for instance. Work is almost entirely mobile. What pieces of industry in general, capital I industry, do you guys think that wearable technology is the lowest hanging fruit and going to be the first, second, third sectors to be adopting this?
Sure, give it a shot. So, I mean, I think the cool thing about your question is it's not an abstract question. I don't know if any of you have kids here, but if you do, and you take them to Disney World, you can see wearables in action, right? If you go to Disney World, you don't have a pass to get into a ride, you don't have a key to get into your room, you don't take out your wallet to pay for anything. They give you a little device called a magic band that you put on your wrist, and that's how you move around the park. That's what gets you into lines, that's what gets you onto things. And that's a great example of not low-hanging fruit, it's already there. Now, it's expensive for Disney to do that, but you can see that model, and I just tell you, it's a way better experience to use a magic band. So I think, retail, hospitality, resorts, amusement parks, lots of opportunity there. And part of the question is it also depends on the form factor, like depends on the device, right? So that's one example. Obviously glass and Epson and Vizix, that makes sense. In retail, you can see people putting together planograms who have to stock shelves and think about what should be on the shelf. You can see the value of having something like glass. In complex service environments, so you're going to go fix an MRI machine and you want to see what's in front of the machine and you want to get coaching in real time, that's an area where glass or something like that could assist dramatically. Warehousing and merchandise, moving things around a warehouse, pick and pack operations, I think so. That's another sector where you're going to see a fair amount of use. And then I think, though, to your first point, though, I think we have a hard time imagining what is going to come, and that's the coolest thing about wearables. We all now accept that, for example, in a meeting, it's totally normal for someone to just pull out a little computer and just leave the meeting, right? Like, they're not there anymore. They're checking Facebook or they're reading an important email. One of the two. And I think that even the subtle little shift of wearing something like a Samsung Gear or a Pebble Watch, where you don't actually interrupt meetings, you actually be present with someone while they're there, and you can get contextual notifications pushed to you, like intelligently saying, this is what you really do need to know, but you can do it in a way without destroying the real part of work, which is working with other people. That's another powerful area. So actually in the workplace, I think you'll see the wrist ones, I think, take a fair amount of effect. And other simple things, like a product like BioNIM's NIMI, can totally change the way we think about the space that we have because we can change the security settings on what we have. We can walk up to machines and they turn on because they know who we are. We can walk into buildings. We can walk into a room and have all of our stuff set up for us. So I think it'll actually change the physical space by having wearable devices available to us. So that's probably more than just a few low-hanging fruit, but I think those are some of the places where you're going to start seeing this take effect. Yeah,
I'll give another one. So at Neustar, what we actually implemented at the beginning of the year is a total fitness program. And this is happening today, right now. So every employee, we partner with a health management company. Every employee has the option to go get their whole blood work done and their basically a fitness check. They measure your BMI, your blood pressure, your cholesterol levels. And then what they do is they create a system, a couple of metrics for you, including they issue, everybody gets a free Fitbit that goes through this. And if you accomplish certain goals, you actually get a decrease in your insurance premium, right? So maybe you pay $200 per paycheck for your insurance premium. If you reduce that, if let's say you drop your BMI, there's multiple ways of achieving your goals, but if you achieve the goals, there's set dollar amounts that you actually pay less for your corporate and premium because you hit those goals. And so that's something that companies, so insurance and healthcare today, you can do this immediately, right? Especially given that a lot of people are moving into these large managed health programs. I think that's a low-hanging fruit. The other thing that is also very important is that in my kids' school, they're starting to really emphasize eating healthy. So they're teaching the kids how to guesstimate, like how much do they eat, and then tracking and logging. So you can imagine a device for specifically for kids, because a lot of these schools, they have set menus. All you have to do is put in, like, what did I eat today, right? And then create a report. This way, this allows the parents to track, okay, is the kid really eating healthy? Did you get enough of, you know, vegetables today? How many servings? And then you can make a decision on what you make for dinner to complement that. So I think that's another low-hanging fruit that can be established very quickly.
Yeah. Now, Quinn, you actually invest real money, real dollars into a real market.
Right. So I think to the point here made on the healthcare side, right? So I think that's a opportunity. We see both probably in the corporate setting, like as you mentioned, potentially as a usage scenario to potentially get people to be more active. I mean, the Fitbit use case is not necessarily about how many steps I really taken, right? It's really about, okay, I've been sitting in my office all day, right? And at the end of the day, I looked at it, it's only 4,000 steps because I haven't moved much, right? That gives me the motivation to say, okay, I need to go out and do something, right? And especially if you are together with some office workers together, that everybody in your sort of circle, all wearing a Fitbit, that gives you extra motivation, right? You're falling behind relative to your coworkers, and you know, people may make fun of you saying, well, your steps like way behind, right? So you kind of run different challenges and so forth to get, I think, the workplace more healthy. So there's the kind of the insurance use case, and then the corporate kind of productivity use case as well. And then we also see, you know, we have this similar to the platform you described. We also have this 2Net platform, which is a hub that you use in the homes. This is for more monitoring, maybe of, you know, patients, maybe for around the home using different sensor technologies. So Fitbit could be one sensor input to the hub. It could be a different sensor that you wear on your body. Maybe it's a heart rate monitor that inputs into the sensor, and then that data gets collected and then moved to the cloud.
Well, that's a whole lot of horsepower just to keep track of your Fitbit. That, I mean, you've designed that platform to really be interacting with doctors and medical centers, haven't you?
Well, that platform is obviously beyond just the fitness, but I'm just saying that the wearable devices you wear would be all serving input to the hub, right? And then the data gets collected and moving in the cloud. Then you can do a lot of analytics based on that information you collect in the cloud. So the platform is really enabling you collect all of these information and be able to collect these data and be able to act on this information. So Fitbit or other wearable devices is just a device that input into the cloud, if you will.
So you think the low-hanging fruit is going to be in what exactly? I'm not...
I think in healthcare is definitely one use case, right? And then in enterprises, you know, maybe different motivation factors, but there would be an adoption enterprise side for maybe wellness or fitness type of applications. And then in healthcare, maybe it's for, you know, monitoring your maybe it's after you've been to a doctor, you come home, right? So it's a slightly different use case than enterprise use case.
Maybe I can make it just an observation on the question. So I don't know if, I'm sure many people here were around for the introductions of cell phones. You said 1986. So
oh, yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but when cell phones came out, like there were two groups of people who used them. Basically, real estate agents and drug dealers, right? That was it. That's, if you were a cell phone user, you had a big brick, that's what you were using it for.
I was in New York, stockbrokers.
Well, they came next. And I think that's the important point. So I think it's incredibly important as this starts to happen, as everyone believes that this curve is going to take off in usage. We can guess about what people are going to use, but what's really important is that tools are available for innovators to figure out how to hack and then build the things that they want to use, and also for social adoption to occur, right? Like people need to see other people using it and saying, hey, this is really great. As a real estate agent, my stockbroker, you could use this too. And the stockbroker started to use it and starts to move through society. I think it's really hard to sort of imagine what is going to happen. You kind of generally get there, but then you sort of end up in like a Jetsons world. It's not quite what we thought it was going to be. I think what's interesting is to just look at the patterns of how we often were skeptical of new technologies that seemed very specific when they first came out, but actually became very general very quickly. And again, it's like, I don't know the answer. I'm excited to find out what people are going to figure out. What's cool about the wearables, and I think what you guys are describing, is they're data-centric that goes into platforms that people can then build things on top of. And then that creates more reasons for people to use the devices themselves, and it starts the flywheel moving. I think that's what we're going to see over the next little while is a whole explosion of people saying, well, I could kind of do this with that too. Why don't I try that? In particular at work, right? There's nothing that we don't think uses a computer at work today, but that's not the way it was 15 or even 20 years ago. So I think there's places where we're like, well, I don't know where you use a wearable at work. I think we'll start to discover, because what work will mean will start to change.
6 or 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, I remember complaining publicly that there were no APIs, that everything sort of worked with their own ecosystem and that's it. So now we're in June of 2014. You go upstairs, everyone's got an API. Everyone here has an API. Apple's announcing an API. I don't know for sure, but I'll bet you $5 that you're going to announce an API. So are we in any danger of having too many programming interfaces? Is something going to fall out? Is it going to need to be some general single vocabulary that all these devices speak to, so there'll be as much interoperability as possible?
I mean, I've done lots of standards work before, and anyone who ever done this work, you know that there's a spec and then there's reality, right? Java, right? Hopefully nobody from Exxon Microsystems people here, but the build ones run everywhere became build ones and debug everywhere.
Right.
But I think there's definitely, certainly we believe that there's definitely room for a commercial product or maybe open source service product that connects them all. I think we don't need to wait for that to even materialize. As long as there's an API, that means there's a way to translate data in and out of it. I think that's the most important thing. And I think what everybody's realizing is that the world of wearables and sort of personal embedded computing is beyond one single vendor or even a set of vendors. So they're realizing that if we participate in a greater ecosystem of cloud and interconnectivity, then they'll get better value out of it. Now, the key is how do they differentiate? What is the difference between a Jawbone and a Fitbit when they're basically just tracking accelerometers? They're going to have to add value on top of that, but I think overall, I think it's good because innovation is going to accelerate.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many APIs. I think something will fall out, and that's a lot of companies are going to fall out, right? Yeah. There's no way there's something, last number I checked was like 280 different wearable companies that I could track. They're not all going to survive. That's okay. There were a lot of MP3 players before. We've kind of moved away from that a little bit. And I also don't think, by the way, it's necessarily going to be every big player in the world who's going to win at this. There are some incredible startups that are coming that I think they're getting funding. They've got the right strategy. Some of those will become very big companies. So that's what will fall out. That's okay. That's normal. I don't think there's a problem with having too many APIs because I think, again, this is a developer-centric world where we're creating this ability for people to build new stuff. Platforms are going to take advantage of it. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Would you be interested in sharing that database with me, by the way? I mean, it's a cloud database, and I'm always interested in knowing about the great companies.
Yeah, send me a link. It's not mine. I just watch it. It's one of the sources out there that kind of tracks. Like, it's just a list, basically, of every time someone posts something. I don't remember the URL off by heart, but I'll send it to you.
But just on the one last point, maybe on the APIs. APIs really, I mean, I don't think there's necessarily too many APIs. APIs allow us to, something to talk to something else, right? So let's say if I have a very good, let's say MyFitnessPal, right, as an app that I like to use all the time, right? I like to maybe be able to suck my Fitbit data into that, right? So with the open API, I can't do that. Now, if everything's closed, then I have to kind of run things separately, right? So as long as I think you provide value to the consumers, and then the API just allows more things to be able to talk to each other.
We have about 2 minutes left, unless we stretch things. I'd like to take questions from the audience. I just heard someone's text.
Don't all rush at once.
Don't all rush at once. All right, let me ask this then. The cell phones really began to take off in the enterprise when people were allowed to bring their own devices in. I mean, before, you'd go to work for a company, they'd hand you a laptop, they'd hand you a phone and say, this is what you have to use, here are your logons, here's the security, it's terribly important you do that. it looks like we're going to be skipping that step with wearables. Or it doesn't. I mean, you just cocked your head when I said that. Do you think that we're going to be going into companies and they say, well, you can use the cell phone you want, you can use whatever laptop you want because everything's in the cloud now anyway. But
sorry, I'm cocking my head. I was just trying to understand it. So you think we're going to go to like a bring your own device, bring your own wearable to work, and then we'll have to figure out how to connect
have to figure out how that is.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably. I think the one difference will be, I don't think a lot of companies are going to necessarily have an interest in some of the very personal, like your workout stats, you know, like a push wearable or something like that. But if you've got a fitness program, you can certainly see a world where it's like, we're agnostic. You want to use Fitbit, you want to use, well, dearly departed Fuel Band, you want to use whatever Apple's got, you want to use Samsung, that's fine. Just send us the data. I think you'll probably find a world like that.
But see, in the hospitality world, you go to Disney. Disney's going to want to give you a device. You go to a Hyatt. Hyatt's going to want to give you a device. There are security implications to
I think you'll find in the consumer environment there's going to be two phases. There's going to be a fair amount of like, we give you our device because they want to have a uniform experience for everybody. And in a world where not everybody has the same device, they can't provide that. The price and the cost curve will come down. I think the Magic Band's a pretty nice device, but they've got a pretty high price point. They can provide it to you. But there are others. There's a place called Great Wolf Lodge near where I live that's literally like one of those plastic bands at a bar, but it's got an RFID code in it, RFID chip in it. So they can do that. And I think you'll see that for a little while. We're not even at a place where we can say, look, everybody has an app, right? You can put it in your pocket. So I think there's some very good arguments for providing a device in the consumer context. But as we advance, I think you're probably right that we will get to a place where the standard or the most popular devices will get recognized.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe because you're overloading the word wearables, because I think there's going to be a class of wearables where a lot of people are going to want to have, and whether it be a watch or a Fitbit or whatnot. But then there's classes of devices like a Google Glasses or an industrial version of the Google Glasses where they're going to just get issued. Very similar to if you today, you go work, your driver at UPS, they don't say, bring your iPhone to deliver the packages. They give you a robust, ruggedized device. So I think you're just going to see that bifurcation. There's going to be the industrial class of wearables, and then there's the personal use consumer wearables. Enterprises will be the smart and innovative ones. They will try to tap into that ecosystem for more employee outreach, employee engagement type applications, whereas the line of businesses, they will issue that because that's part of their core workflow.
Industrial job.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, even in the smartphone world, right? If you look at it, maybe the BlackBerry devices are the ones that are very enterprise sort of centric, right? But a lot of the other devices are actually consumer adopt them first, like the iPhone, right? So they actually bring to the enterprise, so not necessarily enterprise forcing them to use the iPhone, right?
But actually, just one last point before we leave, because I think this is one of the coolest things, which is upstairs there's more people, although it seems to be filtered in. Everybody thinks this is about consumer, but what really made mobile smartphones take off was the enterprise.
Right.
I remember, just a quick anecdote, 2 companies ago, our VC came and said, you've got to start getting BlackBerries. And my CEO, as a tech CEO, said, that's ridiculous, that's a toy, we're never going to use it. And the guy said, look, buy 6 for your company, and if they're not the best productivity tool since pizza, I'll buy them all back from you. Well, my CEO, the old CEO, is addicted to them to this day. But I think it's actually, this is an important point. I think we're going to see a lot of adoption of very specific wearables in the enterprise in all sorts of environments. And you'll see them first. And I think that's going to provide social proof and context for actually to drive a lot of consumer adoption. I don't think it's just consumers. I think people, their eyes will open as they start seeing when they show up at their hospital, when they go to a security checkout, when they check in for an airline, when they show up at a hotel, when they watch the guy, their store clerk. They're like, oh, okay, actually, I could use that too.
Okay, that I'm afraid is the last word. Thank you very much. They're getting the hook. Gentlemen, thank you.